my god. Them views. So this is my Trek Emonda ALR. And this is my first bike build that I've ever done, a bike completely from scratch. And I got the ALR for a couple of different reasons. Now, I gotta say, my main inspiration for this bike was Matthew Loveridge from Bike Radar, who used to be at Bike Radar, and he built up a bike very similar to this, but a purple one. And I have to admit, it has influenced my component choices and the style of this bike. But I still wanted to have my own spin on it. I wanted to make it my own. And this is quite a bright color. I usually wouldn't go for a color this bright, but I was thinking, so many bikes, they come in very dark colors. They come in colors that are designed to almost appeal to everyone. For this color, it really catches the attention of drivers, and it's different. And I want this bike to be different. I want it to be something that not everybody has and not everybody's using. And going from an SL6 disc to this with rim brakes again, I have to say, having a disc brake bike, I really missed rim brakes. There's something about the way a aluminum rim brake bike corners that I just think is unparalleled. Where disc brakes, when they corner, they feel almost dead in a way. It's not that they're bad, they have through axles and they work very well, but they just don't have the precision, I guess if that's a word to describe it. This bike feels like it has a personality to it. Like it's almost as if, you can feel a lot of the road. You're not as isolated on the road as you are on, say, like a Specialized Roubaix or something like that. Or the Demone I had this past summer, which is pretty much just a state killer and can go between New England states easily and very comfortably. Where this is more something that you're really savoring the road. It's supposed to be very light. People often laugh when I tell them that this bike weighs less than most of the entry-level carbon bikes that Trek makes or even any other brand makes. If you were to compare it to the newest 2021 redesign Trek Emonda SL frame, it's significantly lighter. And this bike built without pedals and without cages or any other things on it, it weighs in for me at about 16 pounds. And then when you put your cages and pedals on, it's about 16.5 pounds. And I have the speed plate pedals as well. And I want to have a conversation about my component choices on this bike. So for my component choices, I have a SRAM Red 10-speed mechanical group set from 2008. Now there's this very crazy person in Australia who's given some really good diet advice. I really appreciate his diet advice. If you know who I'm talking about, you can comment down below. But he also said the ALR he thought it rode even better than Trek's carbon bikes. And he says this SRAM Red group set from 2008 is one of the best values. Now I actually stripped this group set off of the Cervelo R3. If you guys remember that, this crank isn't the one that comes with the original 2008 version. I got lucky. This one has a Quark power meter in it, so this bike actually has a power meter, which is good. So that weight includes a Quark power meter, which does add a few grams. It's not significant. And then for the brakes, I have the SRAM S900 brakes, and Matthew Loveridge said he was very underwhelmed by these, which I can understand to an extent. If you were to compare them to a Shimano caliper, they don't have the stiffness and the feedback that you would get from a Shimano caliper. They feel almost, I guess the word dead would be a bit of an accurate statement. It's not that they're bad, they work very well, but you just don't get that feedback of modulation that you do from a Shimano caliper. But I'm kind of a purist and I really wanted this group set to match, hence my review with the Shimano lock rings on the disc brakes for the force axis group set that I had. It drove me nuts. I wanted everything brand matching in my group set. And I have a Garmin here. I have a 1030, not included in the weight. It's just something I've started running. And then I have a radar, and then I have all of my flat kit stuff rolled into a tool roll. But hang on, let's take those things off for one moment. And here we go. bike is actually significantly lighter. That's not a fault of this bike, it's just something you're gonna have to deal with building up any bike. You know, whatever accessories you use with your bike do add weight to that bike. Although with my component choices, I got these from this Swedish cyclist in Japan, the Rides Japan. He recommended these tune cages. These things are incredibly light, but one complaint I have with them is that they don't fit some of the Camelback water bottles, which can be a huge pain. You almost have to squeeze it in there. A normal bottle, kind of a plastic one, just one that's non-insulated, nothing fancy going on, should fit in there just fine. A lot of bottles will fit, but it is something to look out for with this water bottle cage. I also have a brand new stem. This is the Bontrager RSL stem. It's such a beautiful looking stem, and it's not necessarily lighter. I started this build out with a zip stem with an 80 mil. If you want to see that stem, go to my bike build for this bike. I did an entire video of the bike build and the process I went through for building this bike. And I just love the way the stem looks a lot more. I started with an 80 mil because, you know, the funny thing is, aluminum is a very sentimental material for me. I've been riding aluminum trek bikes since I was 14 years old. And the thing is, I started on a 54, and then by the time I upgraded to my SL6, I ended up going with a 56 frame. And this is a 56 frame, and I always wondered, I'm right on the cusp, should I try a shorter stem? And I tried it, and I didn't like how upright I was, so I went back to a 100 mil stem, which I much prefer. And the style of the stem is beautiful. It has the blender bit, and I have a video about that as well. And for the bars, I have a Ritchie aluminum bar. It's kind of a standard one. I actually forget exactly what model it was. It's a standard Ritchie aluminum bar. One thing I don't like about it as much as I thought I would is these hoops. They tend to have consistent drop, where I like if the bars make more of a direct hook around, more of a hairpin, if you will. I like that ergonomically a lot more than this, but it's not that it's a bad bar by any means. They feel responsive, they feel, I'd say they're as good as any bar, quality-wise. I think it's just the shape of them that I don't prefer as much. And alloy wheels, why didn't I go with carbon wheels? Now that's a great question. Another thing that the crazy Australian guy, some of you guys may know of, he said these wheels, you could ride a 23 and it could feel like you're riding a 32. Now, I don't know if that's 100% true, but they're definitely very comfortable. They're significantly comfortable than a lot of other wheel sets that I've tried. These wheels have a 25 millimeter Continental Gator Skin, the black edition, which I've found to be slightly sportier than the hard shell. And I really like this tire, and a lot of people think they're a lot heavier than they are. So that's something that I was really, really happy with. Titanium bolts. Titanium is a material in here which I like because you don't have to worry about it rusting. And would I recommend it? I would say yes. I've heard some people say you have to torque it over time. Of course, I think it's always good to check your bike anyways, but that's just something to keep in mind about titanium bolts. I'd always use a torque wrench with any carbon parts. Like this frame does have a carbon fiber steerer. This is the newest generation in this frame. I heard a rumor that they're going to come out with an ALR Sprint frame, kind of like the Specialized LA Sprint. But the issue with that is you only have a disc option. So if you want this bike with a rim brake, which I highly recommend because of how responsive it is, I would definitely go and get one soon. However, your only option is to get the frame and build it up, because the only completes they have are a disc brake, which have gotten significantly more expensive. They come with a 105 build, and the rim brake one was originally $1,600, and the 105 build, I think it's like $2,300. So it was with a disc brake, so it was a significant price increase. The disc version didn't cost that much originally, but I'd honestly recommend using your imagination with this frame. Like Matthew Loveridge said, it's a great canvas to build the bike of your dreams, really, an aluminum bike. And to me, a sentimental bike at that, since it's like my first road bike. So it was just amazing to build this up, custom, my own ideas, my own imagination, and seeing what I could do with it. And I have to say, I'm really happy because I've never seen a combination like this. I've thought about ETAP on it because I really did like experiencing ETAP on the Demane, but I like the weight of this. I actually spoke to someone from SRAM and I said, should I put ETAP on this? It's a custom bike. And he said, you know what? I'll actually stick with the mechanical. It's going to be a little bit lighter and it'll be a little bit easier to deal with. And I find going back to a mechanical system, just listen to that. I've always had Shetland sheepdogs and it almost feels like a dog clicker. When I was 6 years old, I used to play with them a lot. We had these dog clickers. My parents would yell at me not to do that because the dogs think we're training them the wrong way. But now I get to click it all the time. So it's an amazing group set. I totally get the hype around SRAM Mechanical. And SRAM Red Mechanical is the best. I know the quality on the Rival and the Force wasn't 100%. A lot of the Rival levers did break. But the SRAM Red, I've heard the quality is way better. So I'm not too worried about it. And I like how it's a reclaimed group set. It was salvaged from that Cervelo R3. So it's unique in that sense. It has a story behind it. And yeah, Spinergy wheels, Trek frame, Trek stem, Ritchie bars, Trek saddle, Thompson seat post, which is actually really light. Everyone thinks the seat post is way heavier than it is, but it's very, very lightweight for the seat post use. And I'm very happy with it. And the carbon crank is nice. It has a mix of carbon fiber parts and aluminum and titanium, but I think that's part of what makes it so special and keeps the rust away. And in New England, we all love keeping the rust away. That can be a bike killer, especially if you see somebody who's left an old steel bike in the garage for 20 years and they pull it out. It's a little bit sad looking, but this is a bike you can bring inside and hang on your wall anyways, and just look at it and smile because it's beautiful looking, it's timeless. It's not one of these aero bikes that you'll look at in a few years and think, wow, that's a dated design, because a new one has superseded that bike. So it's a bike that also no proprietary parts, except for one reason for concern people have is the fork. It's carbon fork, but there are a lot of Trek Emonda. This is an Emonda SL carbon fork. There are a lot of them out there. And then you have a press fit bottom bracket, which is ever controversial, the PF 86 or BB 86 bottom bracket, which it's interesting. It's something that I don't love for a very specific reason, and it's not the press fit method itself, because it's a pretty reliable design, and it's a design that Canyon's used on a lot of their bikes, and they stand by it. But the thing that, the drawback of this bike for me that I don't like as much as the Emonda SL frame that I had is how wide the bottom bracket is. And you may think, whoa, you're an amateur, how the hell do you pick up on something like that? Well, the reason is when you ride it, the bike feels a little bit tipsy, not in a bad way. Some people like that. Some people like the responsiveness. It doesn't feel as planted and as stable as an SL does, because that is a really, really wide BB90 bottom bracket. So with that one, you can just be cruising down the road and you feel almost like you have a lot of surface area on the ground. Now, of course, it could have to do with tires and things like that, but even with a narrower tire on my Emonda SL, I noticed that. I thought, wow, this bike, it really feels almost like a triangular shape, like it's on the ground and has a lot of base to it. Where this one, it's not quite as wide, and you do notice that by going between frames. So it's something I've never heard anybody talk about, but it's something that I noticed, and it's a reason that I prefer the SL or SLR frame a little bit more to this frame. But there are reasons I like this frame better as well. It's timeless looking, it's very stiff. This frame accelerates phenomenally. It's, and I'm not just saying it's fast as a buzzword, it's just you do feel the response of it. It just basically takes off because, it's stiff in that positive way, and it's comfortable. It's not like a harsh aluminum bike. Like when I was 14, I had the 100 series aluminum Trek 1 series, which you guys actually saw on this channel. I got rid of it recently, which is really sad to do, but I wanted to make more time for this bike, more room in my house for this bike. That bike was very harsh. In all those years I rode it, I was just like, oh my god, like this, it hurts. And even when I upgraded the tires to a wider tire, you could still feel some of that harshness through it. But this one, Trek's incorporated more of their hydroforming technology. So you have the down tube very wide. It's almost like an oval, which is one of my favorite design characteristics of the Emonda, and one of the reasons I'm not as big of a fan of the new design. I love how it's almost like an oval. It gets wider toward the bottom bracket, which is absolutely beautiful to look at, and it does the same thing as a carbon bike. So it makes it stiff on the side, but still pretty comfortable when you go over bumps. Now, it's firm, but it's not harsh, if that makes sense. You can ever so slightly, feel that harshness from the road, but it's not to a level that you're thinking, wow, this is unbearable. It is bearable, and it's just a testament to how much aluminum technology, or how far aluminum technology has come in the sense where it can be very light, and it can be very stiff and very comfortable, just like carbon fiber. Trek often, they talk about this bike, the great thing about this is it doesn't have that carbon fiber price tag, and I think that that's a real shame that they say that, because it's its own thing. I think this is a great bike for somebody who prefers an aluminum. A lot of people do, and I think that's why you'll have some people that rode an aluminum bike back in the day in the 90s, and they'll gravitate toward a bike like this because it'll remind them of that ride feel that they're so used to and that they like. Now, it being better than an SL or SLR frame, I think it's just as good. I think it just depends on the preference, what you want out of the bike, what you like the feel of. I don't think it's fair to say that one is better. Obviously, the super lightweight carbon frames are obviously going to be lighter because you can play with the layup more. But a premium aluminum frame like this, I think it feels more premium than a lower end carbon frame like a Trek SL frame. Like in my mind, it goes Trek SL frame, then ALR, then SLR. And at the very bottom, you've got the 100 series aluminum bikes, which they still make, but a lot of people, they put such wide tires on those bikes because they try and target them more toward newer, more budget-conscious riders that are looking for a comfortable bike that still has all the quality they're looking for. But this bike is a work of art. I'm very happy with it. It's very fast, it's very comfortable, and it has a personality. I like how it's not dead. It doesn't look like a bike that you just see on the shelf anywhere, and I'm very happy with it. Thank you so much for watching. Stay vegan.